What's up, guys? It's Chris. Welcome to VHB Engines. And I'm sorry that I'm late. I'm running behind because the day got away from me, goddammit. I'm fucking with the Integra, and I need to buy some more parts for that. Thankfully, I'm reminding myself now because I need to order that thing before it gets too late. And went out to go get a PlayStation remote, and next thing I know, it's midnight. Literally, it's 12:01. Sorry. Okay, so all right. I am going to go over my topics first. I'm going to talk about what I was going to talk about, and then I will answer questions. And I'm not going to there's no real method to the madness for this, except for I'm just going to scroll down through the messages and read them top to bottom. Except for one. There's one that I'm going to hold out for the end. And I guess you just have to wait to see which one that's going to be. Yeah, so, all right, well, I guess I'll just get to it then. All right, so I wanted to talk about this the other day, and I technically talked about it. I threw it out on social media and whatnot, so I did update it, but I wanted to talk about it in a video. But the last couple of days, I've been working really late. I've nixed my rule of only working on engine blocks during the weekends because it just hasn't been working out that way. I'm always scrambling at the last minute. I'm wasting too much time, so I've decided that my weekdays I go to work. The weekdays are for sure work days. So I'm going to be working. I go to work, I come home, I sit down for a couple hours, to watch some TV, and then I go back outside and I continue to do more engine work. So I've been really fucking tired. There's a couple times where I'm working till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I have to wake up the next morning at 10 to get ready for work. And I just haven't had time to film the video. And I wanted my excitement to show through here. I didn't want to fucking be like, "Oh, guys, I got some cool news," and then I'm just dead out of energy. So we got a moon build coming. Now, I know earlier in the year I mentioned that Roger was going to upgrade, but things happened, and it's on hold right now. I have given him an alternative. Roger, goddammit, if you're watching, I was given fucking Tron pistons, 81.5 millimeter Tron pistons for free by Jesse when I went to Honda Day last year. It is not likely that I'm going to be building a B series anytime soon for me. And if I do, it's an NA project that I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the year as well. So B series me, probably not going to happen. Plus I already have like a suicide block that I want to run. And it's just not going to be a thing. I don't want to, and I can't sell these pistons. I don't want to sell these pistons because they were a gift. So what I figured, I would give them to somebody as a sponsorship. We had an issue with Roger. He cracked his ringlet on his piston. So I'm like, fuck it, Roger, send me the block back, and I'll give you those pistons for free and send it back. We can do that. So that's going to be the new the project, because he did say he was down to do, he's interested in that, which why wouldn't he be? Cost him a whole lot less money. He's going to have to pay for shipping and then Bourne Hone because they're 81.5 millimeter. But, no huge expenses are going to be here. So he's going to get himself a new block that'll have pistons that can hold the power his block was currently at. So moon build for him on hold. Surprisingly, random out of nowhere, we got fucking a new Patreon subscriber, and he's like, "Bro, moon build, let's do this shit." And I'm like, "Okay, don't get too excited." He's probably just asking some questions, just a little curious. Let's throw some numbers out there, see how he feels. Threw a rough estimate out because guys have been changing prices recently, so I had to reorganize some shit there. And then he's like, "All right, bet. Bam, here's the money." And I was like, "Oh, wow, okay, motherfucker, serious. We're doing this. This is awesome." I talked to Jesse, pistons on lock that same day. Talked to Jeff over at CSS. That's all sorted out. The next day, here's the final numbers for the build. The rest of the money came. Fucking surprised there. Because a lot of people don't, pay up front for me, which is fine. I'm completely fine with taking payments. It just always blows my fucking muffin top off when people pay in full, or they pay much more, like a bulk of chunk of, money. Hundreds of dollars at once is not something I'm used to right now. So it's cool. So a day or so later, I got the block shipped out. As of today, the block's been sitting over at CSS since I think the 1st. And the pistons should be on the way to Jeff as well. And it's so high horsepower CSS with O-ring. We're shooting for 1,000 horsepower here, guys. Yeah, so fucking excited about that. This is going to be the build of the year. And because of how fast dude is moving, I think that it's possible that this build can come together pretty quickly. I would imagine I'll have the block back from Jeff in a couple of weeks. And at that point, it won't be too much effort to assemble the block. And then, dude said he's coming to pick it up personally, so we're not shipping. So that's going to be cool. Because I said, once I realized that this was actually going to happen, it's not like a theory or not a hypothetical, I got super excited because I mentioned before that I would get on a plane to go up to Pennsylvania to see the tune with Roger, right? And I'm like, dude, this is like a big thing for me. I want to be there when this baby's born, when the numbers are produced and it comes off the dyno. Because I figure even if whatever reason happens, we run out of clutch, we run out of injectors, we run out of turbo, whatever the reason, if the block comes up shy of 1,000 horsepower, it's still going to make at least 7. I would imagine that. So that's still going to be a big thing for me. I've had 2 guys that have probably eclipsed 500 horsepower in their builds that I've done, but there's no dyno evidence, so that's a big thing for me. Big thing for advertisement, to be 100% truthful, and then that plays, plus that does good things for people who sponsor me too, as their products. So it gets more advertisement out for them and more eyes, and of course I would definitely like to be able to advertise this. I would like business to pick up. I would like for sales to increase because that means I could do more things for you guys. More intake to VHB engines means more output, right? And so yeah, there's that. And I'm pretty fucking stoked about that. Pretty excited. As soon as I get the block back, I'm going to do another review. I did an original review of CSS a couple years ago when I first got mine. And I did like a side-by-side with that versus the block guard. Well, this is the first time, having the high horsepower one and the O-rings and all that shit. So I'm going to go over that with you guys when the block comes back. All right, so the next thing is speaking of Patreon, discounts or not discounts or Patreon subscriptions, and in my thing with Patreon now, because it's such a new thing for me, guys, I'm still playing with the numbers a little bit, and so I offer 10% discount on everything that I have if you sign up for at least $1, and I offer 15% discount if you do $20. Now, I originally wanted to do like a 20% discount and quickly realized that 20% is just way too much. Guys, you got to remember, I don't make a lot of profit. I make decent money off of it, but my real benefit of the income from engine building is that when I have more than one at the same time. Like if I got 2 builds going on at the same time, that's money compared to me doing one every once in a while, a month or 2 removed. It's not huge. Right now I'm probably making more money off parts than I am off engine buildings. And so there's that, right? The whole idea of like a 15% or 10% discount, I realize that once you get past $1,000, and that's good. Now I want you guys to have a meaningful discount with Patreon, but I gotta say that once you pass $1,000, it starts to get too big. Because if I'm only making like $500 or $600 and the discount comes off to be about $200, because if your total is like $2,000, like in this case where it was for this build, it's not something I can sustain as a loss. All right, so my workaround for that is it will be a straight discount percentage if you're like if it's 600, 700, 800 maybe, I can even do that. I can do that discount. So what was my other conclusion for the discount for that to be still meaningful for that kind of a bill? Now I was like originally thought, well, maybe I could just take the labor and discount the labor, but then it only equals out to like 40, 50 bucks sometimes. So I was like, well, what can I do? I was like, well, I'll just give a flat rate discount. So once you cross the $1,000 threshold, if you are a patron and Patreon subscriber or whatnot, you donate, then I'll just knock off $100 instead of just trying to give a percentage discount and raping myself, or giving a percentage discount that's so low where it's like negligible to you guys. I'll just knock off a flat rate. So if you do a purchase with me and you're a Patreon subscriber and you have that discount, once you cross that certain mark, I'll just knock off $100. All right, that's what I can do. That's the only thing I can think of where it's still a meaningful difference, because $100 is a big chunk of change, but still not so big where it's going to hurt me, where I'm going to take an L on work. Because despite the fact that I want to get you guys, on Patreon, because that's just extra money for VHB engines is always great, it still has to be justifiable for me to take an L, because a lot of you guys, now I'm not complaining about this, I love the fact that you're going to donate $1, but if you're donating $1 a month, that's $12 a year, and so if I'm taking like a $200 discount off for that, it's It's hard for me to do. Maybe once we get to the point where I'm like 100 people deep donating, and or I'm getting like 3 or 4 engine blocks every month to build, then I can sustain doing discounts like that on a larger basis. But right now I just can't. So I wanted to talk about that real quick. So another thing is, so we're going to get into the little micro things, the ones that I told you that may not be big enough for their own video, but still want to throw the information out there. You hear a lot of people when they're doing engine swaps or whatnot that talk about, they need a VTEC harness. Well, I would say that there's a bunch of you guys out there that don't really need a VTEC harness that think you need one. That's the EGDC crowd. Now, EK is different because the harness goes all the way. It's like a one piece, like the K series. It goes from the engine bay into the ECU directly. So if you get a VTEC harness there, you got it direct to the ECU, makes a difference. But if you're doing the EGDC, can't remember the EF, it's been too long. But if you're doing an EGDC swap, your engine harness stops it in the bay. Like it connects to a body harness, and the body harness runs down to the ECU. So if you're in a DX chassis or a chassis that originally comes without VTEC, and you get a VTEC harness and you plug it into that body harness doesn't have the wires to the ECU for VTEC, so you're not going to have VTEC. So that's what I'm saying. If you are running an EG and it's not an EX, then, or if you're running an Integra and it's an LS, then you don't need that, because it's not, you're going to feed into a dead hole. It's not going anywhere. You're still going to have to route VTEC either through the body harness or just run direct lines to the ECU. So I just thought a little FYI to throw that out there for everybody always searching for VTEC harnesses. Depending on what car you have, you might not need it. And it's probably for Del Sol as well. Also can't remember because it's been too long since I did that swap. Okay, so the next one to talk about is like one of those things I remember talking to non-car people back in the day. Like, you get a turbo car or whatnot from the factory, and they you have the recommended fuel rating, right? Like, what octane should you run for this car? And then I had people that are like, oh man, it doesn't matter, it's bullshit, it doesn't change the power of the car, just run regular gas. So if you don't know, ECUs detect the fuel octane levels, and if the ECU detects a lower grade of fuel in your car, it'll pull timing to stop from detonation. And if it pulls timing, it's pulling power. So, what made me think about this again, even though I haven't thought about it in a while, is that I just bought an SI. The SI comes stock turbo. It's like, hey, what's the fuel rating? Now, I'm pretty sure that all Doc VTEC engines are supposed to be recommended at 93, but it can run on regular. And it's the same thing for this. The SI can run on regular, but 93 is the recommended octane. And I was reading around some forums looking for this because I didn't read the owner's manual. And it was like, yeah, it'll pull timing, which I'm not surprised. Turbo car, it'll pull timing, and also the gas mileage is a lot different if you run it on pump or regular 87 versus 93. And to test this, I fucking ran my car out bone dry from where it came from the dealer and filled it up with 93. And I'm at like 210 miles right now, and I still have a quarter tank of gas. And if you're thinking that maybe it's because of the way I've changed the way I'm driving, I don't balls out rip on a car when I first get it. I take time to acclimate myself to the car, learn the car, really get a good feel for the car before I start really mushing on it. If anything, I'm actually driving the car harder now than I was when I first got it. So this tank of gas is actually getting more butane than the original one, and I have a quarter tank more at this mileage, because I think at 220 miles the fuel light came on, and that's when I filled up. So now we're at like 210 miles, and I still have a quarter tank. Yeah, so it was full from the dealer, and it's made a huge difference. I think a quarter tank of gas is a pretty big difference. Now, of course, I'm gonna do this one more time and check to make sure. But I to be honest, I can't really, my butt dyno doesn't really feel any snappiness in the response or whatnot. But yeah, there's that. And if you're wondering why my SI review is taking so long, there's 2 reasons. One, because of that. I want to take some time to learn the car to give an honest review. If you watch Ford versus Ferrari, there's a scene where, Carroll Shelby goes, he's talking about a preppy guy, and he's like buying a car. He's like, what do you think about it? And the guy drove around for like 20 minutes or 45 minutes, something like that. And he's talking out his ass. It takes a lot more time than that, driving a car, to really understand what the car is. And I believe that 100%. That is definitely true. That's why, like, a lot of times when it comes to test drives at dealerships, I just skip on them. Like, I know what I want when I'm going to get there. I already know enough about the car. Me driving it for a few minutes isn't going to make a difference. I'm going to buy the car. Plus, anytime you're driving a car with a new clutch or whatever like that, or if you're driving a car that you don't own, you're not going to drive it the way you normally would drive it. So whatever time you spend in the car for your test drive is nonsense. It's not really going to give you much anyway. Especially if you're like a responsible person, you're really, making sure they're not fucking anything up. Then you're more worried about not fucking the car up than you are about experiencing what it is. So that's why I just avoid the whole test drive, because it's nonsense. You're going to take a couple of weeks to really understand the car. Now, can I get in the car and just drive it fast immediately? Yeah, and of course I did pulls like not too long after I left the dealership to see what it is I'm dealing with. But to really understand a car and its capabilities, you need a little bit of time. You need different circumstances, situations, different places to drive the car, and all that's coming in a review. The other thing is I was going to use a little camera, the little GoPro thing that I was given, but I realized it's just going to be a lot easier for me to edit and upload straight from my phone. So I'm going to get a sucker camera holder, phone holder, and stick it on the sunroof and do it from there. Plus that way I know exactly what the quality is going to be. So that is coming soon. I feel like I've driven the car enough now where I know it. And I can talk about it and give an honest opinion on it. All right, so one more thing, or no, not one more thing, a couple more things. Okay, so upgrading the VTC to RBC 50-degree cam gear, right? When's a good time to do that? So yes, the RBC comes in a fucking it comes in the base model RSX and it comes in the EP3, but really the best time to upgrade the RBC cam gear to really make the most out of it is when you're upgrading intake manifolds. At least that's what I'm seeing, or results from the dyno. Also for you K24 guys that want to upgrade your VTC to the 50 degree, if you do that and you don't go to the K20 manifold, you're potentially hurting yourself on power. And that's from 4-piston. They were monitoring the differences on the VTC, and if you use the K24 intake manifold, you're actually losing power. So there's that. Also, another little tidbit throughout, this did come from a subscriber. We talked a little bit, and some of the shit he was saying was kind of weird. And then this one, the little nugget he threw at me was legit. Apparently, the P&D cam gear is the first generation RBC. And apparently, it's actually, some people say it's made better. So if you have a P&D cam gear, that is an RBC cam gear. And I think I have a couple of those buried. I guess I could throw them on the sell list, or I might keep them because I'm constantly selling RBC cam gears. I'm running out of them all the time. I can't keep them. So if I do have some B&Ds, maybe I'm gonna keep them for myself. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Okay. So another thing is I talk about why, like Facebook groups, they annoy the shit out of me because I see people asking all the most basic ass fucking questions there, and it's like it devolves into a fucking 40, 50 post comment thread of people just slinging shit. And it sucks to see like one or two guys like, hey, that guy's right, the conversation can end there, and people still consistently throw their input in. That was something like I shared on Facebook today, Kenny's post, where he's like, how people on Facebook or YouTube comments think they can diagnose a race car from this like performance shop and shit. Like, yeah, you can't. There's been a couple times too where I've mentioned I've had problems and I had people like, hey bro, maybe it's this, hey bro. I'm not asking for your fucking input. I have specific people that I'll go to that I know for a fact are smarter than me. And that's no knock on anybody out there. I'm not saying that people in my comment section or people who watch my videos may not have information I don't. That's true. But a lot of times, 9.5, 9.8 out of 10 times when people are commenting, it's really, really, really basic stuff that I've already thought about, and it just clutters up thinking about, stuff that I've already thought about. Like, I know it's not that, I know it's not that, I know it's not that, and it's just like me telling everybody what I've already checked and what I haven't checked. It's just, so, yeah. That's why I've stayed away from Facebook, and that's why I kind of let my own VHP Engines open forum stop, because I thought in my head, I'm like, well, I know there's some smart dudes that watch my shit. Maybe they can get on here and help people. But it just immediately turned into that kind of shit where it's just like stupid basic ass fucking shit. Stuff that I've talked about that nobody's searched for. And I'm like, this isn't what I wanted. I'm literally creating something I hate. So I let it go. Maybe someday it'll come back. I don't know. I have to find a way to control it more. Maybe Discord or some shit. I have no idea right now. I'm not ready for it. But the thing is, from there, I did see something. I'm like, fuck, this is kind of gay, but I wound up reading it anyway, just because there was so many comments. I wanted to see what the fuck people were saying. And this is sounding hypocritical of me, but I learned some shit from it. Jeremy, a guy who I think found my channel through a mutual friend, subscriber type deal, he posted his K24 up the other day with a log manifold. And I guess a couple of his friends were like, oh, that shit, don't run it. And people regurgitate shit they hear all the time and have no real answer for it. So he asked in K20org about the manifold. And see, here's the thing. It's one thing to be intelligent and know things. It's another thing to be intelligent to know when you hear a good explanation of why your thing is wrong. And my shit, I didn't really have anything against it. I'm just like, well, I mean, like, people say it holds you back on power, which is true. We know that it's not a great flowing manifold. So, yes, it's going to limit your power that you're going to make. If you're going past 500 horsepower, try for big numbers. Don't try and use a log. At the same time I'm saying that, I know people with K24s have made 700 horsepower on a log. All right? So, but if I throw an idea out there, hey, what's up with this? And then you be smart enough to understand when you're hearing something back that's good and be like, oh, okay, argument over. Yeah, you're right. That's it. No more need to discuss it. So in there, one of the things that popped up in the comments was the fact that the K20 or the K series head are high flowing. And I believe that. That's why they make so much fucking power. They have great heads. And if you look at the fucking head, you can see how huge the fucking ports are. Stock. So I'm like, okay, now continue. They flow super high. High volume. Now, the runners on log manifolds are really short, super short. I would say they're probably even shorter on the K log than they are on the B log, because of the fact that, there's only so much distance between the back of the head and the fucking firewall. So they have to be short. So, apparently what the fucking problem is with the K series and the log manifold, is you run a log manifold, they flow so much air through there that it's too fast for what the log manifold can properly flow, which creates a feedback loop, which pushes back pressure back into the engine, forces the air back into the engine, slams back into the rotating assembly, boom, blows it to fucking pieces. That makes perfect sense. Like, oh, that's a good fucking reason. Too much fucking flow, creates a feedback loop, back pressure blows up the engine. Makes a lot of fucking sense. Oh, can't use log manifolds on the fucking K. But there is a loophole, ladies and gentlemen. You can't use it on those big VTEC heads because the flow is enormous. That makes a lot of sense, right? Well, here's also something that makes a lot of sense. If you're using a base model head, like I'm going to be doing on one of my blocks, the flow is not nearly as high. Much smaller ports. Very easy to tell. Line them up side by side and look inside. Like, oh, wow. The fucking base model head's like, compared to the fucking huge-ass openings on the fucking, on the real VTEC heads. All right, so now I know that I can use this on the base model head, and I'm just, not used on a big boy head. And I'm not going for big power anyway, so I know it'll work there. And now I have the reason why the log manifold is a bad idea for the fucking K-series head, which I guess would translate to D and B if you're porting your head. If you're porting polish in your head, it's a bad idea to use that shit. But then again, I guess if you're spending the money to port and polish, you wouldn't be looking at a log manifold for your build anyway. So I guess that's one of those things that's just like, meh, duh. All right, so the last thing I have to talk about before the questions is RBC manifold. Now, I was all ready to throw in the towel and say, fuck this, please stop asking me for RBC manifold. I have to buy it at market value, and I cannot meet that demand, because the last time somebody asked me for an RBC manifold, I entertained them. I was like, all right, let me see what I can do. And I was like, well, it'd be like $350. He's like, damn, bro. And that's another thing I fucking absolutely hate. If you get a price for me, man, it's well thought out, and it's every cent I'm asking for is for a reason. And it's fair. It's a fair fucking price. When you're coming to me and telling me like, damn, bro, it makes me feel like a fucking scumbag. Like I'm trying to rob you or some shit. You are out of state. You are asking me to go out and find a thing, get it, wrap it, ship it, and make no money. If the market price is $250 fucking dollars, I have to pay $250. The whole point is to have parts that I can consistently get at a steady price. If one day I get lucky and get an RBC, what the fuck does that do for me in the future? So I don't focus on it. I focus on things I know I can get at the same price. That's why I focus on RBC cam gears, and I focus on the VTech killer rocker arms, because I know exactly the price I'm going to pay for them. So I know I can sell them all the time because I have somewhat readily available. The RBC is still kind of sketchy, but the VTech killer rocker arms are definitely always there for me. So I know I can make money. I just sold another set on eBay today. All right. So I was like about to make this huge rant on stop asking me about RBCs, because I just can't fucking find a way to get them to where I can, you know, make money on them and sell them at a fair price. Because there's no, I mean, if shipping, a soft estimate is $30 to ship this fucking manifold to you, and the price is $250 locally for me to buy it, we're already looking at $280, you know, and I still got to make some profit because it's my time and my fuel to go pick up the goddamn thing wherever the fuck it's at. So for me, selling it for like $300 or $350 is a fucking gift for me, because it's a lot of effort involved there. And shipping, until I ship something, I don't know exactly what the price is. So every time I quote you guys on shipping, I'm still potentially taking a loss there. I shipped the short block the other day to CSS. It cost me $78, plus the box was $3, right? That's $81. I quoted the guy $50 for shipping. I took an L. Nobody cares about when I take an L. All you care about is getting it for as cheap as you can. You know? And that's business. I understand that every once in a while I'm going to guess wrong and take a fucking L. But that's my learning. The learning costs me money. Right? So, I've did some digging, and I found an RBC intake manifold, and I think I might be able to have this on a steady supply. So, I don't know yet. I'm not 100% sure. This is something I'm trying out. I ordered the RBC. It's coming. Should be here next week, sometime this week. And I'm going to present it to you guys, offer it for sale. The fucking intake manifold's already got a 70mm port, so it's already opened up. And I can sell it for $260, right? Shipped. Now, I guess the only thing I can do to kind of sweeten this deal up a little bit is, like, I sell RBC cam gears for $60. Now, I'd be willing to throw the cam gear in with the RBC intake manifold and sell them both for $300 shipped. It's a minor discount, but a discount still nonetheless, and you're getting the intake manifold with the gear to make the most of your upgrade. So there's that. And I think I can fairly say that that's a pretty good fucking price, because most people, anywhere you look on any Facebook group in the country, is asking, between $50 to $80 for the cam gear. So I guess if you guys truly, really want to see RBCs from VHP engines, then when I get this intake manifold in hand, somebody buy it with the quickness. And if that sells, then I will see what I can do about getting more. What I would very much like to happen is for this to sell immediately, and then I can go back and buy some more, and I can have multiples on the side ready to go. So anytime anybody asks for RBC, I have one. Same thing with the RBC cam gear. I'd like to have at least 3 on hand, because people ask for it all the time. So if I sell 2, I know I need to go out and resupply. That's what I would like to have with the RBC intake manifold. I'd like to be able to have 3 at all times, sell 2, and then I know I got to re-up. So that's an experiment. We're going to see how it happens. I figure worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out and nobody buys the fucking thing, I can use it for my K. So I'm not really taking an L here. I figure even if I can't make money off of it, then at least I'll have an upgrade for me. So that's something I'm pretty fucking excited for. It's been a long time since I've ordered something off eBay and then check the status on the fucking shipping as regularly as I have for that manifold. Normally I just buy something and forget about it, and then it shows up in the mail. My wife's like, "Hey, you got something? Here's a picture." And I'm like, "Great, that's awesome." But the intake manifold I'm fucking hyped up for, and I'm fucking constantly looking at the seller's information for shipping and whatnot. All right, so yeah, I think that's it for now, and move on to questions. See, this is what I was saying. This, if you mash them all together, it can make a longer video. And the idea was to be 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And we got some time. We got 30 minutes in. So my original idea was I was going to read the questions, and I was going to think about the questions and then give the best informed answer that I could. But that's just not happening. I didn't have the time to sit and do that. So we were just going to read the questions, and I'm going to give my best off-the-cuff answer that I can. All right. So Dwayne Dixon asks, what would you recommend to do to a stock F18 single cam to get the maximum power? That's kind of a veiled question. If you're talking about the maximum power that engine block can handle, forced induction is the only way to get to that maximum level, because what you're going to make off of NA is not going to be enough to blow that thing up. So you have to boost it. And then if you're going to boost it, F18, it's been a long time since I looked at that block in details. But I know the F series single cams, generally speaking, to make around what the B series do stock, around 350 horsepower. Don't know how long that'll last, but I think that would be like your bet to stop there. So there's that answer. Let's see, Zach, I can't, Sphere, SPAHR, VTEC killer, VTC gear. I heard the 50 degree would cause piston valve clearance issues. I hear that a lot, and that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. A lot of people think that there's, if I use this to, piston valve clearance. Well, here's this. People head swap all the time, and there's no issue. If you're swapping a K20 head completely from an RSX onto a K20A3, and that is a common upgrade, then why would you think that swapping the VTC alone on lower lift cams would cause piston valve clearance contact or piston valve contact? It wouldn't. You get more lift from the K20 Type S head than you would from the base model head. So why is upgrading that going to be a problem? Because it's stock cams, even for the VTEC killer. Like, well, I mean, unless you're going to upgrade to some serious fucking cams. But yeah, I'm guessing you're not. So no, it's not going to be a problem. Use the VTC if you want to. I mean, they come on that fucking base model engine anyway. The VTC's there. It comes with it. So no, it's not going to cause a problem. All right, Crux Dub. What engine besides K-Series really piques your interest? So that one is a question that I would have liked to really stew on. At one point in time, I would have said the 2JZ because of how much power they can make stock. But now that we know that now that we've seen what people have done with K, I think the 2J is finally it's going into the coffin, man. The K swap the world. No joke, no pun intended here. But K-Series are literally being put into anything, and they're making the kind of torque and power that you would see off of something like that. So it's kind of hard to say what I would enjoy outside of a K-Series. I guess the real one thing is I would like to build American. I'd like to build a V8. I would like to just, in general, I'd really like to do a J-Series, and I'd really like to do a V8. Not because it's, power reasons, just because it's something different. I want to build something big. I still have my J block, and I'm probably going to buy a J32 in the future. And I want to do those. These are things I want to do. Just right now, I'm focusing on building up VHP engines, making VHP engines a legit business. And then when I have the free time and money to go back and play with these things, this is what I want to do. I want to build something American, probably an LS. And I would like to build a V6, so probably something J. So those would be, I guess, the two engines, or I guess it's more like a family of engine that I would like to look at besides the K. Those are the two things. I want to build something American, and I want to build a V6. And I've got people that have mentioned building big blocks or whatnot, and I've volunteered to do it for free just because I would like the experience. Like I want to be able to do that. I'm probably kicking myself in the nuts. The way my rule of thumb is, if I can pick it up by myself, I'll build it, because nobody helps me. I don't have a special shop for everything. I don't have a truck. I have a car, and I need to be able to pick it up out of the car. I need to be able to move around. I need to put it on the engine stand. And if I can't pick it up myself, then it's not something I could do. So yeah, there's that. Edward Bose, what are VTEC killer camshafts, and is it good to put them on a K20A2? Now, I told you guys I would give you answers on everything, even if it's something I've already talked about in the video. But because, like I said, because I have talked about it in the video, I'm going to give an abbreviated version. Because I've explained this in VTEC killer pros and cons, right? VTEC killer is not really so much a camshaft. I mean, they are VTEC killer camshafts, and the VTEC killer camshaft is an aftermarket cam that has no lobes except for the high lobe that is VTEC. So technically, a VTEC killer cam is a very specific custom-made camshaft that's for the VTEC killer setup. Now, it's good to put them in an A2. It really depends on your build. If you're driving around a stock K20 or whatever, and it's gonna affect your daily drivability. It's gonna fucking burn up your fuel like crazy. You're gonna have a choppy idle. It's mainly used for something that you want to use as a race engine. Now, I eventually will put something like this VTEC killer and then drive around in it and see how I feel about driving it just to and from. But no, I won't recommend that for anybody. If you're thinking about VTEC killer, make it a purpose-built car. Make that something that you plan on racing with, not something you're going to drive around in a regular. And again, if you search VTEC killer / VHP engines, you'll find it. I've even done one real recently, pros and cons and expectations of gains for VTEC killer. It's on the channel, but that's a quick summary of what VTEC killer is and whatnot. Alexander Maru, how much power? I would imagine that English isn't the first language of some of you guys, or typos or whatnot. So I'm going to read exactly what you wrote. How much power can I make with a K20A2 with stock cams and pistons? All right, so how much power can I make with a K20A2 with stock cams and pistons? All right, so how much can EP3 Type R. So a stock Type R with bolt-ons and fuel, I would say most likely, if you go the full bolt-on route and you tune on like 85 or something like that, or higher octane, 250. We know that 220 isn't like an abnormal number to see. We just saw Kenny over at Humble Performance made 230 with just an intake and exhaust on E85 on a stock K20. So that's a pretty impressive number. I'd say it's pretty impressive. 230 is pretty impressive for a stock engine with fuel and tune and a couple of minor bolt-ons. All right, so now some of you guys already played Superman and jumped on here to answer questions before I got to it and whatnot. But I'm not going to answer those because I'm not going to address the answer that somebody else answered. I'm just going to give my answer to the original question. Is there a solution for a piston oil cooling on HF engines by install oil squirters and to remove balance shaft galleries? Sorry for the English, I'm Russian. Okay, so Mr. Chanis, oil squirters are not a necessity for your engine to run. Now, I know that some people have argued, hey, I road race or whatever, so I want the extra cooling. But most purpose-built engines that race delete the oil squirters. I think one of the reasons I remember reading a long time ago was that the engine temperature difference in the oil from the pan and the piston doesn't have enough time to, the heat doesn't have enough time to transfer if you're squirting it directly on the piston. And the temperature difference can be so high that it can actually cause the piston to crack. If the block has oil squirters, by all means, leave the oil squirters unless you have a clearance reason to take them out. So if it comes with oil squirters as it is, leave it. As far as modifying a block for oil squirters, some of these you can, but again, you need to pay attention to clearances to make sure you don't smack it. If I would say that if you want oil squirters in your block, if there's a block in the family that you can get that comes with them stock, I would just go that way instead of trying to drill and tap into your block. I want to say that it can be done because you do see some blocks already have where the emboss where it goes, but it's just not something I would do. I'm not going to say you can't, but I would say that it's not worthwhile. It's not a worthwhile modification, and if you must have your oil squirters, get a block that already comes with them. That's just my input there. Best rim and tire setup for 650 horsepower turbo build street. So a street build, 650 horsepower. It's proven that bigger wheels, better traction, smaller wheels. I guess it's kind of like a lightweight flywheel versus a heavy stock one. You'll make more torque on a heavy stock flywheel, but make less horsepower, I do believe. And of course, the smaller the wheel is, the easier it is to spin them. So I guess if you want good traction, you don't need a 14-inch rim. I'm not going to be the guy to tell you what exact size you need. That would be something that you have to investigate elsewhere. Just like cams or something I've only recently started getting into, rim and tire is something that I need to look at myself. I've seen people say this and this, but there are some other people that I would like to hear that from as well. And I plan on going to a drag racing seminar myself by actually going and visit Humble Performance out in Tulsa at some point in time, either this year, maybe, I don't know, because this fucking coronavirus thing really fucked up my schedule. If not this year, then next year at the very latest, and go out with them on the track, learn as much as I can from guys who are fucking literally holding the world records. So hopefully I'll have a better explanation someday, but today I'm not going to fuck with it. Saga EZ1. I want to install a stage 1 or 2 Crowd cam instead of my GSR cam on my high compression B20V. Good idea. Is there a way of checking if I can cause piston valve contact with the motor already installed and built? I don't know. I don't think you can. I don't think you can be 100% for sure. I'm just gonna say no. The only way you can check piston valve clearance, is to measure. Like you see in 4-piston, if you follow them, you see they have a deck bridge to measure the exact height of the piston dome coming out of the block, and then based on that measurement, and then based on the measurements of the head. And then that's when they determine what head gasket to go with it to make sure you don't have that kind of problem. If you don't want to do all of that math, then the easiest way to do it, and it's not even easy, but the simplest way to do it, would be to clay your pistons. So slap them on there, and just go reassemble like you're supposed to, and go through it and see if you have contact. I would say, depending on your height of the piston, like how high the compression is, if you got like the PR3 ones where it's kind of like they're dome, but they're not like the PCT, then I would say that you wouldn't have to worry about any kind of piston valve contact there. Now, if you are running PCTs and you want to go with a super aggressive cam, I would say be wary of that. If you're gonna go with PCT pistons and run a cam aftermarket, play it safe, get a stage 1. That's what I would say there. Or clay the pistons. I don't really think there's any other way you're going to find out, and not unless you run the motherfucker and find out like that. And that's not the way you want to find out. Okay, so Arthur Stroblus, when it comes to flywheels, what is light and or too light for daily street race time attack? What would be better between lighter tire set that, let's say, 8 to 10 performance, or set that are heavier but gives 9 or 10 performance, and mid-range on a set of 15-inch rims? That is something for purpose built. You need to try and see the pros and cons of where you're going to make your power, because it's the same thing like if you run, okay, so I can't remember what the fuck the channel is called, because I don't watch them all the time, but there's a YouTube channel out there. The guys built they case swapped an EM1, and they went to the track and they ran the EM1 versus an FRS, and the EM1 in the straight line destroyed the FRS, but then they ran them on the track. They did, one guy led, the other guy followed, and then they switched. The FRS it beats the shit out of the SI on the road course. That car is built for that. Same thing with the Type R. People argued in when the Type R was first dropped. The Type R is meant for track course racing, not drag racing. So it's fast in the turn, but not fast in the straightaway. Fast compared to most performance cars. So you have to see, you have to try and figure out where it's going to make a difference in the rev range. And unfortunately, I don't have the data on that to tell you where it's going to affect your power band. That's something you have to do some individual digging on. So yeah, the second half of your question, this tire versus that tire, where you're going to gain and lose, that's something that you might have to do trial and error on. You might have to just try one set of wheels, because that same channel I was telling you about, they also did that. They also played with tire size to get optimal speed. So the only thing, what they did was they tried one wheel, one size, ran the course, and then they, did it a couple times, and they ran another set that was bigger, and they seen when the tire got bigger, when the wheel got bigger, their track times increased. So they did it as big as they could get and still make clearance to turn and all that shit. And I want to say that they landed on like 17s. But I don't remember the exact spec. I just remember there was a 17-inch rim. And I think that's really big, but, if you're doing a purpose built, then there you go. How much boost? Okay, so C. Jackson, how much boost can a stock B20 engine take? B20s are hit and miss across the board. Anytime you start digging into that engine and start modifying, there's no telling when that thing's going to give out, when or where or why. All right? It's always a gamble for any engine you build that it's eventually going to be compromised, because if you're building it usually to make more power, and to make more power to use that power. And nothing is bulletproof, really. So anything can blow up. So the B20 is, if you're going to run a B20, you're going to boost it, just know the fact that it could pop a sleeve at any time, at any power level. So either you're comfortable with doing that, you're okay with eventually swapping out, or you're not and just don't run boost on it and do something else. Because I've seen a B20 crack sleeves even at 220 horsepower. All right, so there's no magic number. Even Jeff over at CSS, Cylinder Support System, doesn't warranty the fucking block nearly as high as he does the other ones, because there's no guarantee the B20 is not going to crack. Even with the Cylinder Support System, they still crack. So hit or miss, guys. Delvin Queely, F20B block, H22 head, would work? Yeah, they'll work. Okay, now hop over to Facebook real quick. I wasn't really expecting people to drop questions there, but they did. So, all right. So Chris Hall, have you ever had H22 FRM cylinders honed and then ran some Nippon Racing pistons and rings without success after the hone? Was there any oil consumption? I've talked about running Nippon Racing pistons on H22s before. Why? Because Nippon Racing are cast. Yes, they're a different material cast than the stock cast, but they're still cast. So if you want to run an aftermarket piston on the H22 that might work, I would say that's your best bet. No, I've not personally done it. I can't build everything. So, I mean, if I built an H22, guys, you would have seen it on the channel. Definitely would have. Now, with that being said, too, there's one thing to add. FRM sleeves, you don't really hone them with a standard hone. You have to have a special honing tool for that. I don't know where you get that. All right, so you don't really hone an FRM, with the ball hone or fucking 3-leg hone from the auto parts. You don't do that. All right. Another thing to say is the H22. I know somebody recently who back in like 2015, 2016 put together an H22 with forged pistons. He recently spun a bearing. Really recent, like within the last 2 weeks. So he ran it for several years with no problem. And when the engine failed, it spun a bearing. He broke the engine down, took it apart. Cylinders are fucked up. Now, not as bad as you would imagine, but bad. Bad enough where you don't feel slobbing. Don't feel comfortable running them still. And I was like, well, yeah, so, I talked to him, like, look, man, you can send your block out to Jeff at CSS, and you don't have to go the CSS route. You can just get the cylinders replaced with the cast iron liners, and I think it's like $800 for your install. Now, I guess that really just, at the end of the day, it comes down to how dedicated are you to your H22, how much money you want to spend on it. H22 is like the B20. If you're gonna do anything to that fucking shit aftermarket on the FRM cylinders, you're playing with fucking hot fire. Nothing I have seen go into that. Even the ones that are supposed to be, good for FRM compatible aren't. They fucking shred the liners. That is what you have. That is the reality that you're facing. If you want to fucking run aftermarket pistons in the H22, you either got to do one of two things. You say, fuck it, don't care what happens in the long run, or you say, let me replace the cylinder liners. The cheapest option to go is with Cylinder Support System. That'll probably be a separate video, because that is good enough information to throw out there separately. All right, so Chris Bradford, how big is too big when porting your head before disturbing airflow? And should you polish the intake side? Does it really mess with fuel atomization? Yeah, anything that you're going to play with the ports can fuck with your fuel atomization. That's one thing. And two, after I just gave my review on hand porting the other day, I'm not doing it. There are people who have spent some time, okay, so I think that there are machines out there, there are CNC machines that have a generic port, like they just open it like this. Or you can go to a specialized shop like 4Piston Racing who have tested, they make the ports, they test them on a dyno, find the results, and that's how they make their designs. It's proven for a reason, and they maximize the power they create because they have the engine dyno to immediately test their setup on. I ported by hand, and when I ported by hand, it wasn't great. Now, somebody said, oh, you need more practice or better bits. I have metal cutting bits. I have the right bits for cutting this shit. So it's not that I didn't have the right tools. It takes a fuck ton of time. And you don't really know what the results of your fucking work's going to be until you get it on a dyno. And it takes a way, way too much time to do. If you want proper work done for porting, go to somebody who does it. Try to find a Honda guy. If you're doing your porting for a Honda engine. Don't try and do it yourself. You're going to spend a lot of time and you're not going to come out with the best results. Go to somebody who's already done the research properly and they can do it. Pay the fucking money. All right, that's my tip there. Then Chris asked again, are there any benefits to removing EGR? Now, I usually do because it's just less parts on there that I got to deal with. But at the same time too, there's not really like huge benefits, not really huge takeaways. I mean, somebody probably tell me I'm wrong on that, but that's fine. It's whatever. Run it with it, run it without it, doesn't really matter. Benefits, I wouldn't say there's benefits. Cons, I'm not really worried about it either. They're like B gene A versus B gene B. A doesn't come with it, B does, whatever. Now at the end of the day, I'm not stressing on it. It's not going to make an effect. Not going to make a difference or alteration of how I'm going to run the block. And it's the same thing like with catch cans. I don't really run catch cans. Now some people that no matter what they build and they do turbo, they think they have to have the catch can. That's not really the case. Does it help? Yeah, but it's not a make or break for the build unless you're going for really big power and dealing with the blow by. All right, so wow. 58, 59, boom, 50 fucking minutes. That was a long video. It's kind of what I expected. Like I was like, maybe this could stretch for at least an hour, and it did. So yeah, if you guys like this, I'm gonna know because the view count's gonna tell me if I come up with 150 fucking views, I'm never doing this again because this is an hour long video. 500 plus views, then it'll be something I'll consider doing on a monthly if I have enough to talk about. Yeah. Like I said, this is just like an experiment because live streams don't tend to work out very well here. And this way I can focus on the questions instead of, a bunch of people asking me questions at the same time and I got to scroll back. So, yeah, I'm super excited for the future, guys. Thank you guys all for your support. Thanks to everybody for your donation for Patreon. Much super appreciated. I'm super busy now, and I like it. I'm actually starting to run out of engine blocks in my shed, and I'm like, fuck, I need more engine blocks. If you're curious about that right now, I still have one K24 that I can do. I have a K20 that I can do, and I have a single cam that I can do. If you guys are interested in those, hit me up. Social media links are in the description down below, and peace. See y'all next time.